guys, welcome back to a Frame a Day workout with Helen Chen. Today, we are going to be doing a shot from the film Gladiator. Gladiator is such an impressive film in so many different ways. It really did kind of, set the bar in a lot of ways for these period epics. I just remember seeing it in and just being blown away by just how vast the world seemed, and those Colosseum shots are so crazy and amazing still that I had to do some shots from there. Luckily, I decided to not choose a Colosseum shot for us to do because I did not want to be on the hook for like 4 million people. But this movie, there's a lot about it that I really like, and I in particular really love this opening battle scene because it is so full of energy and so beautifully shot. And it was one of the first movies I watched where I definitely don't want to say it was the first one to do this. I just haven't watched a lot of the other films that you could probably count as similar in this genre up until this point. But I just love how there's like almost every shot there's like dirt flying around. There's all this debris. They get a lot out of these very kind of like almost abstract shots of, like a person falling or, things like that. And then dirt flying across the scene, and then there's like fire. So they do get a lot of mileage out of these kind of more abstract shots. And I think the reason that it's so great and the reason I like it so much, besides the fact that it's effective, is that it kind of adds to this whole movie, like tonally. If you've watched the movie, you know that there are some pretty dreamy kind of like almost like interspersed scenes of his family and his wife, and they're always kind of like either out of focus or it's like really deep focus or like cropped, like you only see a part of them, and it adds this kind of like dreamlike thing. And I think that this style of shooting for even the fighting scenes kind of like really lean into that feeling that this is like more of it's more about an experience and feeling rather than literally watching something and being able to see like, oh, 40 guys went through the forest and it looks like this, and so it's much more like about experiencing the feeling of being in a battle scene instead of watching one. So I think that's why I really like it, and that's why I feel like it's like effective as a kind of a filmmaking technique. And I actually read that the cinematographer for this movie did have some, like, of course, like everything does, they did have challenges on set and with lighting and with working with actors and things like that forced that creative choice. But I think in the end, it really worked out super well. For this scene in particular, I just love, how warm the background is with that fire, and then the foreground is so blue, and it's such a high contrast film frame, and I think it's really, really beautiful. And that's part of the reason why I chose it. There's a lot of other shots in Gladiator that definitely deserve to be studied and to, do these paintings off of. But this one just really caught my attention as I was kind of like looking through the movie. Now that I've got most of the color laid out in the background, I'm trying to I tried to challenge myself a little bit today, and instead of using an extra layer and doing like a soft brushing of that slightly cooler misty tone on the left, I decided to try and paint some of this stuff in and paint in the fire as well, and just use the scratchiness of the brush to feel like the different like plumes and flames and stuff. So hopefully it'll pay off at the end. I think it does. I think it really kind of like keeps it a little bit more loose and painterly, which I like. And now I'm just kind of painting in these trees. At first I was kind of a little bit daunted. I was just kind of like, I don't particularly enjoy painting nature. If you guys couldn't tell, my favorite thing to do are like interiors and sets and things like that. I'm not a big landscape person. So I was kind of like, a little bit worried about doing the trees here, but looking at it as I'm painting, I realized I was kind of silly because they're just like sticks. So there's no leaves really even to worry about. I just have to make sure that I try and capture the hues correctly, because each of the trees are getting hit by different lights almost, it looks like, because of where the fire is placed. So I just need to pay special attention to that and get that to read, and I think we'll be okay. I'm going to leave the figure for almost the last thing though, because it is my favorite part that I'm looking forward to do. So I want to get all of this other stuff out of the way first. So now that I got most of the trees in, I'm kind of still toying with the value a little bit and still trying to, capture the right hue for some of these. Some of the trees go surprisingly blue, which I mean isn't really that surprising. You can see it glinting off of his armor as well. There's like a blue light, you know, like shooting towards them, and that's what the trees are reflecting back. But I'm always surprised at how surprised I am when I look at something and I know like tree bark is not blue, but then it presents as super like saturated blue just because of the lighting. I always have to like remind myself that that's what happens, and that's why I like doing these studies, is because it lets me think, oh, it's okay to, like, in the future painting that I do, it's okay if I decide to push the blue on these trees more. It'll still read, it'll still be fine. Now I can start putting in the figure. And because the figure is itself, like, you know, super, like, pretty dark, you know, like you get some light value off of that, the plate on the horse, I guess. That's the horse's face plate or something. But I'm going to treat it, this mainly as, you know, a silhouette first. So I'm painting in basically what I see as a little bit of the mid values here. I know that there's going to be a little bit of wiggle room between the face especially and the helmet, because they do blend into kind of one larger shape. But I'm going to try and get the darkest values in there first before I go back and adjust. This part was probably the most confusing for me. I went back and forth about how much detail I wanted to put into this horse faceplate thing. And in the end, I decided that it wasn't important. All it does is kind of blend into actually his actual breastplate. And so I decided to keep it kind of vague and just keep it as kind of like a unified shape of whatever beneath his face and figure, and let that be the read. These figures in front are really dark, but I still want to make sure they read as people in like heavy fur coats. So I'm gonna, do my best guess and choose some colors that still have quite a bit of hue to them, but maybe aren't necessarily that dark, and then go from there. Sometimes, because I'm painting off of my Cintiq, sometimes the values on my Cintiq or colors on my Cintiq aren't that accurate. I get away with it because at least my reference is on the same monitor as the paintings I'm doing, but sometimes I still am a little bit surprised when I open up the reference in like, for on my Mac desktop and see the color differences. It's pretty crazy. So for stuff like this, even though it's really, really dark, I still want to start with a color that has like a hue to it so that I make sure that nothing turns out like I can always make it darker, but I don't want it to, look gray. So that's kind of why I try to find the value and color on the painting itself and work that way instead of just starting with like a black blob. I actually kind of forgot about this guy on the right. So I'm just gonna put him in, and he'll balance out the frame just right. I love the shot. I mean, even in action and all that, it still works really well. How the main character is like so silhouetted and visually higher than the rest. And even the characters around him are all kind of like directed at him and like in a triangle. You can kind of see the composition here is like, you could break it down to a bunch of verticals and then like one major triangle where the tip of that triangle is the Russell Crowe's character. So I just like, whether on purpose or not, I just think it's a really smartly composed frame, and in motion, it still gets its, composition and story point across. Thing is laid in. I'm taking my last bit of value checking with some of these colors and really trying to like tie up some of the, vignetting sometimes these films tend to do. So just doing that with a soft round. And then I'm also gonna take a pass at we did get away with mostly, using our like textured brush to do the fire and that effect. Plus it helps that it's a little bit out of focus, so you can really get away with a lot. But I'm still gonna, try and make the fire feel like a tad glowier than we see here. So I'm gonna, get that in and make it feel like the fire is emitting some light, even though it's kind of crunched in the actual reference image and you don't quite see it. So last minute, I also decided to put in a little bit of depth of field. So I'm duplicating this layer. I'm throwing a blur over it, and I'm gonna mask out places where I kind of want it to be, and really, like soften a bit of the background. I'm also throwing some, you know, some bloom in here from the fire to make it seem a little bit brighter than maybe it did. I just love the fiery look of this, so I'm just gonna push it a little bit and give it that impact. And some last minute details, and we're wrapped up on this image. So thank you guys very much. I will see you tomorrow. Bye.